Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we've got some breaking news on the channel today, and that is Roku and YouTube have come to an agreement, and that means YouTube will still be on Roku after tomorrow. Had they not reached the agreement today, Roku would have taken YouTube off of their devices completely. If you had it installed, it would stay there, but any new Roku user would not be able to get access to it. And this is because the two companies have been feuding for months over a whole bunch of different things. And back in October, some of the details of that dispute came out into public when both parties kind of took it to the streets. Basically, Roku was saying that Google wanted to interfere with their universal search results and give YouTube some preferential treatment over other content providers. They also alleged that Google was discriminating against Roku by asking for user data that they're not insisting from other streaming platforms. And there were some other details that were leaked out, including an email in which Google was requesting a dedicated shelf for YouTube search results. We don't know what the terms of this agreement are, unfortunately. You can read that TechCrunch article I linked to at the outset here. So we'll never know what kind of data Roku might have agreed to now send to Google. But there's some indication here that Roku has softened their position on integrating YouTube into search results. This came in from a viewer, Michael Dorgan, a couple of weeks ago. This was shortly after I posted my last video on this topic. And when he was doing searches on his television, he was starting to see a dedicated shelf for YouTube mixed in with other things. And I'm now seeing it on my streaming stick here. I wasn't a few days ago. So if I go ahead here and do a search for tech reviews, you're going to see that we're going to get actually the wrong result here. It's going to say search for Keanu Reeves for some reason. But if I scroll down, you'll see that there is now a dedicated shelf for YouTube on your Roku device. And I think if you go ahead and do a voice search like I just did on yours, you will start seeing some of these YouTube results starting to pop up. And I think this was actually a big part of the dispute because, as we noted in my prior video, the amount of time that people spend on televisions watching YouTube is significantly greater than mobile and web browsers. So this is a big growth area for YouTube, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were really holding out to try to get this shelf inserted into the Roku operating system, and it's clear now that it's there. Now, as you saw, the search is far from perfect. In fact, many times it just refuses to search for things that you're asking for, but other results are pretty good. So here I search for a Tom Hanks interview. Everybody loves Tom Hanks, right? And if I scroll down here all the way to the bottom of the result, I once again get the YouTube shelf, and it is populated with a bunch of Tom Hanks interviews. So I think we're starting to see the results of this agreement, and perhaps this was playing out long before they announced the agreement when the 10.5 Roku operating system was released. Now, Roku and YouTube issued statements today. YouTube said, "We're happy to share that we've reached a deal with Roku to continue distributing the YouTube and YouTube TV apps on Roku devices. This means that Roku customers will continue to have access to YouTube, and the YouTube TV app, which was removed, will once again be available in the Roku store for both new and existing members. We are pleased to have a partnership that benefits our mutual users." And Roku made a very similar statement in their release today. They said Roku and Google have agreed to a multi-year extension for both YouTube and YouTube TV. This agreement represents a positive development for our shared customers, making both YouTube and YouTube TV available for all streamers on the Roku platform. And Roku benefited greatly from this agreement being announced because their stock is going through the roof today. As of the time I pulled this screenshot, it was up 16%, although I think it's gone up more than that since I put the slideshow together here. So clearly investors were happy with the result here, and I think this speaks to the value of independent content, so much so that investors felt like Roku had some risks here if they didn't resolve this dispute, and today Roku is being rewarded for doing so. Google stock is not seeing this bump, so the real winner here today is Roku, and they've won because they came up with an agreement that was acceptable to both parties. So every once in a while, when two parties come together and find a way to work out their differences, everyone wins for the most part. And for Roku, I think the reason why investors were so concerned is that Roku makes most of their money not off the sale of the box, but off the users using the box, because every time you move a screen around on Roku, you get a new ad. Roku's got a big ad business for their free content, pre-roll ads and that sort of thing. And if they have less users using the box day to day, there's less ad impressions and then less revenue. So it appears as though some aggressive negotiating on the part of Roku has paid off for them. We do see that they made a concession insofar as that search shelf is concerned, but we don't know what kind of data they're now agreeing to send to YouTube and Google based on our activity, unfortunately, nor do we know how long this deal is for. But it looks like there is a deal, so I guess for now we should probably be happy about that. But there's more on the horizon. It looks as though there's a similar dispute brewing with Amazon Prime Video, because Amazon runs a competing free TV app to Roku's free TV app, and the Amazon one, of course, is imdb.tv. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Roku and their negotiations with Amazon in the very near future, but for now it looks like your YouTube is safe and sound on the Roku platform. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Hot Sauce and Video Games, Brian Parker, Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Thomas Anfang, Jim Tanis, and Handheld Obsession. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.